From Chicago, you're listening to Around Comics, the comic culture podcast where we talk about everything in and around the world of comics. I'm Brian Salazar. The guy that should be doing this is Christopher Niesman.
You're doing okay, kid.
For my first time, it's okay.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, not your first rodeo. Hey, everyone. How you doing?
Good. This is my second podcast sort of thing of the day. 2 in a day.
That's right. Little Tommy's on mute.
Oh, sorry. My bad.
Hey.
There you go.
There you go.
I'm just scanning documents over here.
That was Sal just trying to keep you down, Tom.
Keep the white man down.
I'm scanning some documents. Some important stuff going on over here. Keeps getting jammed.
Nothing worse than a jammed scanner.
It's just paper. Why can't you just scan this paper?
So yes, I'm Christopher Niesman, and that's Tom Caters, and our my partner in crime. I'm just saying my partner in crime, Mr. Brian Salazar. You said this is your second podcast thing today. You were rubbing elbows and virtually controlling the show for what convention was this?
So the Mainframe Comic-Con, Chicago-based online convention. They invited me to host a panel. Immortal Hulk, who I've been talking about that book for months on this show, so it was kind of fun.
Nice. That's hopefully you maybe put in a plug for the show. We might be able to talk to him in the future, maybe.
Definitely put in some plugs for the show. Definitely, I felt like, we had an hour to talk, and about a half hour in, I hadn't gotten to him writing any comics yet. It was like growing up in Britain. What was the comic book scene in Britain when you were a kid?
There's angry people like, tell me about the Hulk.
Yeah,
why is this guy?
I don't care about fish and chips. Tell me about gamma rays.
There were a bunch of like angry people posting comments and questions, and even the guy who was running it was like posting the comments on the screen, and I was just completely ignoring them because I'm like, well, I have plenty of questions. I don't need.
Your last.
I don't need the people.
So this is the last panel that you will ever host.
Probably.
Right.
It's probably the last panel I'll ever host. Yeah, I sent him an email afterwards. I'm like, hey, sorry guys, I'm used to like 3-hour marathons where we really dig deep in. But it's like, how many times has he done an interview and it's like the same 5 questions about the Immortal Hulk?
Sure.
And I hate that stuff, and I'm sure they get sick of it too. So it's like, like we do, I'd rather just have a conversation.
Tell me about your childhood.
Tell me about your mother.
Yeah. Tell me everything about your life.
But so hopefully we'll get him on to talk a little more in depth about growing up in Britain and being a comic nerd over there. So
we'll have to ask him about the truck driving culture.
Yeah, lorries. They're called lorries.
So what are your feelings on lorries?
Yeah, lorry drivers. Are they serial killers there in England as well, or?
It was interesting because like they're growing up. He's a little younger than we are. Well, not Tom.
Yeah,
but he's a little bit younger, and he's probably a little closer to your age, younger than me. I guess I'll say, and but. Growing up in the 80s reading comics here was like there was a stigma, and you weren't supposed to read comic books as an adult. I guess you're still not supposed to, but I suppose over there it seemed like it wasn't quite the same. Like it was kind of normal to read comic books as a kid and as a young adult. So,
but it was only they were only allowed to read like Beano.
It was Beano, yeah. I didn't even get that. Was my I wanted to know more about because all we ever hear about is 2000 AD and Judge Dredd, and that's the big 2 of British comics,
maybe some like early Alan Moore stuff, it's
Future Shocks and stuff like that. But it was like, well, there has to be more than that, right? There has to be a more diverse comic book.
DR and Quench, that was one of his early series over there, right?
Yeah.
But that was like comedy. So, but yeah.
Tell me about Beano.
The history of Beano.
Any relation to Mr. Bean?
Be amazing if it was. No, that's cool. Well, speaking of comics, you guys, what's been tickling your fancy this week? I actually did not make it to my local comic shop this week. So, but and this is kind of going back to the Immortal Hulk. I have been spending more time, on Hoopla and Kindle, the Amazon Kindle, Unlimited and that kind of stuff. And Immortal Hulk seems like it's being pushed on a lot of those. It's got you can basically rent or borrow every volume of that on just about every platform that I've seen for rental or borrowed comics. So it's kind of nice. As I've been exploring it, I've been really impressed by the variety and depth of comics that I can rent and borrow or purchase for not that much money.
When is Hoopla going to give us money for how much we talk it? Hoopla
sponsor the show. We talk about them every week.
I'm four. Is it 4 rentals or 4 borrows a month or something?
Depends on the library. My library gives me 10.
I got 4, so I
guys.
Yeah,
I get 30, I get 21 or 20. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
Hot library.
Oak Park Library. 4.
Let
me go look.
I was happy with. Oh, maybe I get more now. I think I just upped mine.
Well, with the pandemic, they've bumped them up a little bit.
Who do I got to talk to?
Your library. It's your library makes the decision. It's all based on the libraries.
I can borrow 21. Wait, no, I already have 8 checks. I think I get 30 right now.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I wouldn't even know what to do with that many. I can't read that many books in a month. That's one a day. I'm gonna read one book a day.
Well, my son downloaded a bunch of Teen Titans Go comics, so that's eating up about 7 of the 30.
That's awesome, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's if you're not hooked into sort of the weekly, I have to be up to date on comics when they come out schedule, there is so many resources for either free or relatively cheap comics that are only a month or 2 months old. Yeah. You can read so much stuff.
I think I'm actually going to read Doomsday Clock now because I can rent both of the. They broke it into 2. Tom's like, I heard it finished strong.
I don't know. I never got to the finish.
Okay. I did see there's a couple. So I went the other route. Me being me is that instead of single issues, I only started reading the deluxe hardcovers of stuff, which is great. But you have to wait so freaking long in between them coming out. So
I waited 25 years for the artist edition to come out, large format, black and white.
I did that with East of West and Paper Girls. And so I think East of West, the year 3, which wraps everything up, just came out. And then Paper Girls comes out in November, I think. So I'm looking forward to reading the rest of Paper Girls.
This is how I do it. Okay. I download everything illegally every single week. I never read them. But then if something I remember something maybe I would want to read, I get it on Hoopla 3 months later as a collection, and then I don't read that either, and then eventually it makes its way
slowly,
a comic book store or a $2 bin, and I pick that up, and then it lays in a stack, and I don't read it either. So
and then the Absolute Edition comes out, and you buy it twice.
And I don't read it twice.
One of these days, I'll read this thing.
Yes. I have a closet full of books that just someday. No,
one day.
I've been reading. I did start reading this for the Incredible Hulk.
Oh,
really? One. Which is it's not easy. I mean,
I was going to say that I can imagine you being, okay, that's pretty for about 20 minutes and then being like, yeah, I'm not reading this.
It's funny. The thing is, like I talked about before, where, Tom, you obviously you always had this talent of being able to read old comics and really making them fun. When you did Tom versus Flash and all that stuff, you sort of had the ability to kind of look at things in a different perspective and not mock them, but sort of have fun with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of found myself being able to do that a little bit better these days, of like looking at it just from a different perspective and trying to enjoy the stuff either in a funny way of like, oh, this is ridiculous. But like this Hulk stuff is like, I don't think I ever really read early Hulk. I'm like, this is really weird.
They don't know what to do with him.
Yeah.
Like, what are the rules? I don't know. Is it dark? Is he going to kill Rick Jones? I don't know. Maybe.
Exactly.
Oh, poor Rick Jones. You guys carry on. I got something in the mail I want to show everyone.
Oh no. Well, I mean,
it's fun to go back and look at that stuff and just be like, wow, this is a much stranger book than I thought. Because my Hulk experience was probably like the most memorable stuff was Peter David's run, obviously, and then John Byrne's stuff and that kind of thing. A little bit of before that, but the Peter David's probably really what sticks out in my head. But you go back to the early stuff, and it's like, oh, this is bizarre stuff. This is
like, what are the rules to the Hulk? They're like, I don't know. I guess did anyone figure it out last issue? It's like,
there's no telling what might happen. It feels very Silver Age-ish in that way, where it's just like, well, we're just going to tell a story. We have to tell a story this month.
Write a Hulk story. I don't know what are the rules. We don't know. We don't. Whatever. I guess we'll just change them later.
We'll figure it out. Don't worry.
I mean, it is very. It's funny because like we've talked about this before. The Hulk sort of like is so iconic. People know like the Hulk origin story, right? But like you actually read those old Hulk comics and you're kind of like what were they? Did they? It feels like someone almost on like a speed rush. Like, okay, we got one done. Like, oh shit, we gotta do the next one.
12 more. We gotta do like 11 more and an annual.
It's like what? Well, we finished that Hulk story. It's like there's another one in like 3 weeks. What?
Whoa.
Start drawing, Jack.
Is it nighttime? I don't know. Maybe he gets angry. Whatever. It doesn't matter. He turns into the Hulk.
Well, that's right. And then you kind of come full circle to what Al now, and it's like there's he's expanded it so much where there's not the Hulk's kind of like an idea more than a thing. You know what I mean? Like, and you kind of go anywhere with it, but. You look at the origins of it, it's like, oh yeah, it was kind of like that in the beginning. Like there was no real guideline to what the Hulk was or could do other than, obviously he was strong, but nobody, Well,
it's like, right. You see like the first time Spider-Man shows up, you have your, 6 panels that show what Spider-Man can do, like, oh, he's super strong, like you go through it. And the Hulk, it's more like, I guess he's strong. And like,
he gets mad. Kind of. Yeah. It is. Yeah, it is kind of funny. So, but it's been fun to sort of like be able to enjoy older comics that way of just like looking at them a little differently and just like, oh, this is kind of fun. And even being able to laugh at them in that way, thinking about it from what the hell were these guys doing? What were they trying to accomplish?
Just trying to fucking finish it. They're like, this is it.
This is what we got.
No one's gonna remember this.
Yeah, it's not like somebody's gonna put this in a giant
hardcover book. Yeah.
At some point,
they were not doing it for posterity. No.
So, what'd you get in the mail, Chris? Oh, Oh, you got yours?
You got mine. Yeah, it's Octobriana, 1976. It's fucking awesome. It's really, I mean, it's just, I mean, the story is the story, but I mean, it's just ridiculously awesome looking and fun to read. I've got to go buy a blacklight. There's a wild black, first time I've ever seen a blacklight 3D page.
Oh geez.
Nice.
Because it's Rug, and he's gonna have to do something.
Get to your local Spencer's Gifts.
Keep your blacklight. Well, Halloween's coming up, so you can get those blacklight bulbs in like Halloween shops and Target.
Sure.
You might even have blacklights now, Halloween. So perfect timing.
Yeah, I mean, Robot Stalin is a great character in this. It's it's all based on a character and history that was kind of already existing, and he just built the story around it and made it look freaking awesome. I mean, it really is. It's one that you just sit there and look at, and you're just like, this is fucking awesome looking.
That's one of the interesting things about that book is that character has been around in some fashion or another for a long time, and there's a lot of stories out about that character from different people, and it's an odd kind of mythos behind it.
You said like David Bowie had like an Octobriana tattoo or something. I mean, it was kind of this weird counterculture character that came out of the Russian avant-garde, which any Russian avant-garde stuff, if you guys have a chance to kind of dive into that just from an art perspective, is freaking amazing. It's the art that came. I've never been kind of aware or even pursued a lot of art history out of Russia, but the avant-garde movement there's I've got a book around here. I'll have to. Oh, Tashin made a really cool movie posters of the Russian avant-garde. It's not that expensive. It's definitely worth checking out. If you're looking for like weird oddball design stuff for inspiration, it's really cool. And that's what a lot of this really kind of reminds me of. And I'm pretty sure that character kind of came out of that avant-garde art movement. So it's stuff.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
What else we read? Anybody reading? I did read the book of the season, Tiananmen.
Wow.
So, I'm almost done. I'm like 3/4 of the way through.
Yeah, I sat down and read that in a couple of sittings.
So like next week, you want to talk about that next week?
Sure.
We have it here. So what we're talking about, if you're not aware, we try and do a rotating book club, and this is Tom's choice, and it's Tiananmen 1989. So, and I think you can get it on Hoopla as well, right?
Yep.
Yes.
We're in Hoopla. Ding.
Ding. Hoopla, send us the cash.
I finally one that I read on Hoopla, but ordered was Pulp, and I finally got it in today. It was delayed, something awful coming out of Amazon, but I finally got my copy of that.
I've been chugging along on the Hickman X-Men stuff.
Yeah,
just like going through it on Hoopla. I still like it, though there's a few moments where I was like, maybe I don't like this, and then it came back around, and I was like, yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
I've been reading the Jason Aaron Thor, Goddess of Thunder. I kind of started that on the volume 1 when that started, because I know who it ends up being, but I haven't been spoiled on anything else. I'm enjoying it. It's good. I mean, Jason Aaron, it's guy's a pretty good writer.
Got a career.
He's does. Okay. I think
he's all right. He's solid.
I read that. I thought that was good. I enjoyed it. It was I was a little. I'm not crazy about that artist generally, but
it worked for that.
And yeah, I worked for that, and I thought as it went on, I kind of liked it more and more.
Yeah,
and it added a cool weird element to that story, which I thought like fit it because of, just sort of all the bizarre characters and places and things that were going on with it. I thought it ended up working pretty well.
Now, is that character still around? Is it still Thor, the goddess of thunder?
I don't really know. I don't think so.
Okay.
I think Thor is back. I don't know. Honestly, she might be. And then he might have another hammer. I don't know.
Another hammer.
Wait, what?
There's a lot of hammers.
How many hammers can you have?
Yeah. What's Beta Ray Bill's Stormbreaker?
I think it's Stormbreaker.
Okay. We need more Beta Ray Bill in the world.
Yeah, he's a character that fans really like and he doesn't seem to get used very much. I don't know why that is. Like, he seems like he's a fan favorite, yet he's never really. I mean, I guess, how often do you get to use a horse-faced alien as
Norse god? I mean, I'm assuming Guardians of the Galaxy is still being produced in some way, shape, or form by Marvel, right?
Yeah, well, Al Ingram is actually writing it currently. It's 5 issues into his run, I think.
Okay.
Like 6 issues.
I mean, that's kind of the perfect place for him to show up, right?
That would be the proper place.
You could use him in that situation. I think I don't know. Maybe it's like,
what was the name of his ship?
Is he a problem for writers because he's so powerful? Like, because you see that, like you see that in TV shows a lot, where like The Flash, they have to write an episode where the Flash can't really be used because if he was in this episode, it would be over in 10 seconds because he's the Flash.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe that's kind of, it's like Beta Ray Bill's cool, but you constantly have to figure out, okay, now I have to have, alpha level villains constantly for them to fight against, or the story's kind of defeated, pretty quickly. I don't know why he's not. I don't remember his ship.
It's always a time for a Starro story. Just throw Starro into the mix. Messes everything up. What was the? I think we've talked about this in the last few months. What was the Starro storyline where it kind of like completely reinvented that character?
It was in Rebels. We talked about this.
That's right. I need to go back and read that. That was awesome. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, that Rebel run was great.
I personally love Beta Ray Bill. And whenever he's not in something, I get sad. Mm-hmm. I'm like, maybe he'll be in this Marvel comic.
What was the name of his ship?
Even the DC books he opens.
Yeah.
Now he's like,
I'm just like, oh, maybe it's a crossover and I didn't know about it.
Beta Ray Bill would be a good DC character.
I mean, maybe Beta Ray Bill, maybe part of it is like, I feel like every Thor relaunch is about like redefining Asgard. What's Asgard? And like Beta Ray Bill kind of doesn't fit that all the time very well. No. He's kind of like this weird other thing that happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Marvel Cosmic is that it's all of these like alpha level characters. It's like I'd like to see like a Beta Ray Bill Silver Surfer like team, like buddy book.
Mm-hmm. Fight. I mean, if you're in Marvel, then you get to fight like the abstract ideas like eternity. And there's all this stuff Jim Starlin thought of when he was incredibly high. What if we have a character that's everything?
Can't be cancer, though.
Yeah, it's everything. Or like the just like I always thought it'd be fun to make up cosmic character names because you can just like do whatever, right? Like it doesn't matter. Like they just have like I can never remember what any of them are, right? Like Doctor Strange's bad guys. They're all just like these like weird long names. I'm like, which one? I'm like, which one is this one? It's like whatever. Who cares?
It was
no one
the
knows.
demon of so and so. I mean, we credit Starlin with a lot of the Marvel cosmic. Like, I mean, like after Lee and Kirby and setting it up with Galactus and Silver Surfer. But I mean, Starlin is really kind of like the Marvel cosmic guy. Tom, was there like one writer specifically that kind of set up the DC cosmic universe?
No, it's just a mess.
Okay, it's just
well, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about. Obviously, like Kirby with the New Gods are usually, if you're talking cosmic, or on some level involved in that stuff. But then if you're talking about like the Legion, that's like a whole bunch of different other characters, and then like you have your like weird Omega Men corner, and you have like your
the Lantern Corps.
Yeah, like it's just all kind of, and then occasionally they all kind of mix together. But I wouldn't say there's anyone in particular, right? That I mean, Marvel already got Eternity. What are you gonna do?
So where were they supposed to go?
Where are you supposed to go from that? Like Infinity. I fought Infinity.
It's like we got a comment from A. Johnson. How you doing, bud? I can never figure out if Asgard was in space or another dimension or what. It was like
both.
It was wherever it needed to be, I guess, right?
The true Asgard is in here. Your heart.
Asgard is not a place; it's a people. Did you watch the movies? Come on.
Yeah, that's the poignant end phrase.
It was at the end of the Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know. Yeah, I guess it was in space in another dimension. Kind of the same.
It's hard to get to, man. You gotta go to another dimension. Imagine you do all the work to go to another dimension, and then you find out it's like also in space.
It's a bunch of white dudes in medieval times gear.
It's a bunch of cosplaying white dudes. Some
Ren Fair in space.
Some city in space, yeah. Everyone's eating like turkey legs.
Why are those people juggling each other over there?
It is cosmic Ren Fair. I've had after my second turkey leg, it's time for the Odin sleep. Right.
It's the Bifrost.
Yes, I must lie down.
Another thinking of mead.
I need a Bifrosty.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, it's like I went to outer space. Yes, but actually, it's in outer space in a different dimension. Well, shit, I didn't know that.
And it's a Ren.
It's like a really cool Ren Fair.
Yeah.
And it's not what you think. Not what you think space is going to be necessarily, or another dimension is going to be.
We were talking about Ren Fair yesterday. We went to the Bong recreational.
Hell yeah!
And which was nice. It's beautiful down there. It is on the Wisconsin-Illinois border, but it made us sad because this is usually the time of year we go to Ren Fair for a day and have overpriced turkey legs and meat and stuff. So, do you guys? I mean, I know Sal's done the Ren Fair.
Oh yeah.
I've never gone to a Ren Fair.
No.
Tom really needs to go to, and Chicago has one of the best, I guess, in the country.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
Well, Wisconsin. It's not Chicago.
Yeah.
Oh, is it Wisconsin? Is it on?
It's in Wisconsin.
It's in okay. It's over the border.
The Bristol Ren Fair.
Bristol Renaissance Fair. It's
I did that when it was King Richard's Fair. Before they changed it to the Bristol Renaissance Fair.
I didn't know. I didn't peg Sal for a hipster Ren Fair guy.
Well, I don't want to get there. I want to get there and find out that it's actually a Middle Ages fair. It better be a Renaissance fair.
So, me and my D&D crew, nerds, decide we're going to go to Ren Fair. And at the time, it was King Richard's Fair.
Yes.
At the time, it was, if you dressed up in costume, you got in for free.
Oh, cool.
We all, of course, dressed up in costume because it would be fun. And it was an excuse to dress up in costume, wear a sword, that kind of stuff. We get there, and it was the first year of Renaissance Fair, and they're like, "No, that we're no longer doing that. You have to pay."
And you're like, speak to my sword.
I had to walk around dressed as, you know.
You had to pay and walk around just like a. That's good.
But yeah, I've gone. I've taken my kids a couple of times. I've gone to Ren fairs out of state. I went to a Ren fair in Florida, and
did it have any Asgardian vibes to it?
No, they're all basically the same. They're one step up from a carnival. I mean, it's
a carnival where there's some people that get really extravagant with their costumes. That's basically what it is.
Yeah. Sure. But they're fun. I do enjoy it. My kids have fun at them. The jousting is always cool, and the shows are the best part. Like they put on all sorts of different shows, and that's kind of the best part to me.
They'll be like acrobats, and they'll do little plays and
sketches, comedy shows and different kind of things. Yeah,
puppeteers,
some Renaissance humor.
Yes, some Ren Fair humor for sure. There was one time, like at the one in Bristol. There's there's various kind of pubs, but there's the one main pub that it's an outdoor thing. You can go and you order, but they have like this particular show is a comedy show, but it's like these three kind of older women dressed up as wenches, and they're really, really dirty. I mean, like really, but it's like medieval dirty.
Okay.
It's weird. Like it's almost bizarre in how filthy it is, but in a cheeky way. Like I don't know. It's odd, but
it sounds right up my alley. This is exactly the type of thing I enjoy.
You take the kids there in a couple of years.
Body Renaissance humor. Look forward to it.
It's a good time.
I'll dress up, even though it won't get me in for free. I'll make everyone dress.
Dress the whole family in period piece of attire.
Make my children a horse, front and back.
I will give you a tip. Don't bother with the throwing rotten tomatoes at the jester guy. There's it's almost like a dunking booth.
Yeah.
Where you're throwing tomatoes at the guy you're trying to, but they have it set up. There's like no way you can hit him.
Oh, bullshit.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
I'm gonna bring my own rotten tomatoes. And
I do like there's an axe throwing or a throwing thing that's kind of fun. That's kind of fun to do.
Keep in mind,
I've thrown axes before, and I'm pretty good.
Tom, this is in Wisconsin, so there are dangerous things that are still legal there. Because as we talked about years ago, Wisconsin really is it's international waters. Pretty much everything is legal here.
Well, I'll tell you what, you do have to be careful. There are certain dates for the Ren Fair that you probably don't want to bring your kids because it's a lot of more leather and chain.
Oh, okay.
Maybe you want to expose to your kids
bondage fair.
So there are some days that you might want to just make sure you check the calendar.
It's just like Asgard.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Weirdo leather. Bring the Odin leather. Bring the Odin ball gag.
And if you're looking for a incredibly expensive leather-bound sketchbook or stuff like that, you can find those there.
Can I get a Utilikilt there?
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Any color, length, size you want.
Nice. Okay, good.
I almost bought a tunic. I was really close to buying a tunic the last time I was there, but
I feel like if you buy a tunic, you have to get other clothes to go with it, right? Or you can't just wear a tunic with normal pants.
Well, this was really bad because it was a leather Captain America tunic.
Oh God!
Wow! And you got it, and I need to see that.
No, I didn't get it. I did not, but I did try it on. I did.
Of course,
a picture of me with it on somewhere.
Was it like supposed to duplicate the Captain America's look? Like it was?
No, it was medieval still. I mean, it was.
It was okay.
It was just
medieval Captain America.
Yeah,
which makes sense because
in the red, white, and blue, and yeah, it was. They had a couple of. They had. I'm trying to remember now.
The Wolverine one.
I'll say this: some of the people, like the people there that are like, the crafts people.
That
have their booths and stuff. Some of the stuff they make is pretty amazing. Like some of the clothing and costumes and the leather stuff. Like it is.
I got the metal workers. I mean, they've got glass blowers there. I mean, yeah, they're artisans.
Yeah, listen, you can't just throw together a leather Captain America tunic like in 5 minutes, right?
No.
That's American craftsmanship. They don't make stuff like they used to back in the day. You could get that anywhere. Now these craftsmen
I remember when I went. So when I went as a youth, I was in a pretty heavy D&D group that I played with every week, and we played for usually it was
played for money.
No, but we played for hours and hours and hours at a time. I mean, we would play a minimum of 10-hour
holy,
and usually longer than that. And so there was a lot of caffeine involved. One of the tricks was you would go to Ren Fair and you'd go to the apothecary and you could buy powdered caffeine.
Oh God!
So I had
like trucker speed.
To fucking stay up to like I had a leather pouch, a little leather powdered caffeine that I would wear around my neck, and it was just like
just doing lines of caffeine
just went up hearing that story.
Yeah, that was
you have to pop with Sarton now.
We're going into this dungeon. Let's do it.
Let's kick some dragon ass.
I'm fired up.
What was that? What was the Chevy Chase movie where he was?
Oh, that horrible haunted
one, like Modern Problems, or
you mean Nothing But Trouble?
I think it was Nothing But Trouble.
You mean the classic?
I just remember whenever they were doing like the exorcism ring, and he snorts the powder that they had laid on the floor. That's the image I have of you snorting, powdered caffeine.
Stay up all night, guys.
Chevy Chase did some terrible movies, didn't he? So we have Ren Fair covered. What else have you guys been reading? What's been on the docket here?
I don't know. What have I been reading? I don't know if I've read that much this week. Honestly, I'm going back and rereading The Boys.
Every time I try, I get about 12, 18 issues in, and then I just kind of peter out.
Wall. There is that wall there of that where you gotta kind of bust through it. I get that. I've done that. I did that same thing, but I forced myself to get through that. It isn't that like it's not that great of a comic book. As much as I enjoy it, like it's not
high art.
Huh?
It's not high art.
No, it's just, I think it's just them shitting on the comic book industry. I mean, it's just them sort of like, not so cleverly pointing out all the horrible things of the comic book industry in a lot of ways, and just like how shitty, the American comic book industry can be. It's funny because like every time I read it, I think about like, okay, so is this Garth Ennis and Derek Robertson? Like, is that like which characters are they? And then I don't think it has any correlation, but I always think that Frenchie is Christian Alame because like I always just picture him as
be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, but it's like, oh, this is really, I mean, this is really an indictment of the comic book industry, the superhero industry as a whole, and just like how shitty the comic book industry is in a lot of ways. When you kind of look at it from that perspective, it was them. It was satire of the comic book industry. So it's very interesting from that perspective of kind of looking at it. Although it's weird because they have the character that I'm assuming is supposed to be Stan Lee, the legend character, who's despicable in his own way, but also sort of like heroic in some ways in that book.
Sounds like Stan.
Yeah, which is interesting that they would kind of depict them that way, but there's rereading it, there's so many little things in that book. There's so many sort of that I didn't, and it's funny to kind of read it now after sort of the Me Too movement and Black Lives Matter and just sort of all this social awareness that is the things that have come out in the last
when did The Boys come out? Because that brings up a funny little story. Is what 2014 2014?
I don't even know. I honestly couldn't tell you. I'd have to look it up. I don't.
I mean, it's been a while. Like 2013, 2014. Me Too. That was what 2018. Was that the Me Too movement was a couple years ago? Really started. So I was online and some guy was complaining about the
2006 is when The Boys came out.
2006. There you go. Okay. Yeah. It's been a day or two. But there was some guy that was complaining about the scene where the Aquaman character, kind of drops trow and tells the new recruit to give him a blowjob. And this guy was only talking about the TV version of that. And he's like, oh, here we go. Me Too, getting all involved in my entertainment. And I think I had looked at, up on Comic Book DB or whatever. And I was like, dude, that scene was written in 2006.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, it has nothing to do with Me Too.
I don't think the first time I read it, because I definitely read this, when it came out, but I don't know that I made the correlation to, this is them talking about the industry. This isn't just like, or at least I don't think I made as close a connection with it, but like, yeah, I mean, just sort of the idea of like the girl, I can't think of her name now, but joining the team and Star whatever. Yeah, and Starlight.
Yeah, the TV show's awesome, by the way. It's fantastic.
Great, and that's why I wanted to read the book again. But like them forcing her to change her costume and just like all the things that and it's like, oh, this is them talking about sexualization, of female characters in comics and all the different things. It's just like, oh, duh. I just sort of like have that sort of realization reading it again. So it's been interesting going back and reading it again in that context. But yeah, it was certainly talking about, sort of the horrible things in the industry that a lot of that stuff has come out now.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting in retrospect to look at that.
I may have to give it another look. I was it's been probably the last few months going back and starting to reread some of my favorite series from the last like 15 or so years. I think I told you I started reading American Vampire again.
Yeah.
And that series, it's without a doubt my favorite Scott Snyder work that he's done, and anything that Raphael Albuquerque is on is going to be great. And I guess they might be going back to it. I think there's some more American Vampire, which I thought they had kind of completely finished that series up, but it sounds like they're going to get together and do one more story in it.
Oh yeah.
Bring the vampires back together one more time.
One more time. right up Western vampires. So
reading some Greg Rucka, your favorite Greg Rucka stories from the last 15 years.
I've always got a Queen and Country trade laying around somewhere
at his bedside.
Yeah,
under his pillow. He sleeps.
I'm going back and reading the one with Leandro Fernandez, who he did the Old Guard with. So I've been kind of picking through that one. I haven't had anything that's just kind of like grabbed me and kind of consumed what I'm reading for a while. So
choke the life out of me.
Yep.
Consume your mind completely.
Well, apparently, like Hickman's X-Men has just got a hold of Tom and won't let go.
Well, I'll just keep going. Like it's got me hooked, baby. I'm interested. That's all I can ask for.
Do you remember the 12 by?
It was awesome. Is that Straczynski and the artist was
Chris Weston?
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, I just started reading that again. It was like, I haven't read that in a long time. That was a really good book, and I know there was delays in like that finishing and everything, but that was a really cool story. Sort of a JLA, JSA vibe to it.
but in a lot of the ways, like the Boys does, there are characters in there that if you pluck them out of the mid 40s and bring them into the future, there's some really horrible racist assholes.
Yeah, it's a dark book.
It's really dark. Yeah.
Back to it, it's sort of like, oh wow, Marvel really let Straczynski, get pretty dark with this, which was surprising. Kind of, I don't know if I just didn't catch it the first time around, but like going back, like, oh wow, this is a lot, a lot darker.
Really dark. I loved his stuff Straczynski's a guy that I think he, for whatever reason, really developed a love-hate relationship between comic book fans for whatever reasons. I always liked his stuff. Like Midnight Nation.
Yeah.
That book, that's one of the books that got me back into comics after I had taken some time away. That series was fantastic. And then it was probably Rising Stars right after that, where I'm like, oh, okay, they're doing this in comics now. I can get into this. So Straczynski, and I think looking back on it, I probably bought both of those series because I loved Babylon 5 so much. Babylon 5 was a fantastic sci-fi series. And that's where I really learned the Straczynski name. And once I found out he was writing comics, I was all in.
You're like, I'm into this.
Yeah. It's who the artist on Midnight Nation.
Kirkman?
No, he did Green Lantern Year One with Jeff Johns.
Someone with an E?
I'm looking it up.
Speak amongst yourselves. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Gary Frank?
Gary Frank.
Yeah,
that's the one where, like, when everyone smiles, it looks like they're in pain, but I still
the grimace.
Yeah, I loved Rising Stars. That was a series that was like same thing, like that kind of got me back into a collector mentality of comics. Wasn't necessarily a good thing, but like they had a lot of sort of zero issues, I remember, and like and I made it a like mission of mine one year to sort of just go and get all those issues.
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy that story and that universe that he kind of created. But
that was one where they ended up with a bunch of delays and they ended up having to change artists like halfway through. And then they started doing like the zero issues and like the different origins. Then they spun it off and did like some different miniseries out of it later, right?
Yeah, there was a bunch of stuff that came off of it.
Yeah.
And then and then he went into Supreme Power, the sort of
Was that a Max line?
Yeah, that was a Max Line book.
I mean, the idea of it's funny to hear. I've always found the idea of a 0 issue like the perfect comic book thing. I'm like, yeah, we didn't do an issue 0. Here you go. It's a collector's item.
Mm-hmm. And it has 4 covers.
Yeah, the 0, 0.5, 0.75. We can just keep doing this forever.
Well,
0.5
suckers. What'd you say?
Did they do 0.5 issues?
I definitely have some half issues of some stuff. I know. I think there's a half issue. There's a 0 issue and a half issue of the 12, I believe. So I think I know there's a 0 issue. I don't, but I know there are some half issues.
Chef's Kiss
out there.
The perfect comic book. Perfect. Like, how can we?
Yeah.
How can we appeal to people's lizard brain collectors mentality? Like, 0?
Is Straczynski still? Is he? I want to say he's got some comics out there. Is he doing some stuff? It's going to be with like.
Yeah.
What, Sal?
I believe he is. I want to say the same thing. I don't know exactly what he is doing, but I feel like he just came out with something recently.
Yeah, I want to say it's with a non-big 2 company. It's one of those like new, what's Mark Waid doing? It's like H1 Comics or something like that.
Well, that's been around for a little while.
This past year.
Yeah, I don't know. He did just do something, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, because I like Straczynski stuff, and then when he started writing for Marvel, I know that he turned a lot of people off with his Spider-Man run, and that was he wrote Spider-Man all the way up to Brand New Day, right? And then Slott took over.
I don't.
I think Straczynski was like the last Spider-Man writer before they kind of like reset everything.
AWA is the comic book company that Brent Schoonover's new book, The Devil's
with Alonso.
So
yeah.
we hope J. Michael Straczynski is doing a trucker comic. That's our hope.
Yes.
It's the comic you didn't know you needed, but you have to have.
Yeah.
Right.
In a lot of ways, Babylon 5 is a trucker comic.
It is. It's about interstate commerce.
You're right. I think you got a shot here at a new series.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with Babylon 5, like I remember I read Straczynski's book on writing. He has a really good book on writing for all different kind of genres. Like he covers TV writing, movie writing, just all sorts of things. And he talked about Babylon 5 like he wrote that as this was 5 seasons. It was a complete story.
Yep.
Only 5 seasons. This is what it was, and people still say it was like one of the best, like sort of complete series of TV, I mean, I think it fell off because
the first 4 seasons were amazing. That 5th season was, I think there was a lot of behind the scenes stuff that was going on, and like the last episode is perfect. But then I found out that they filmed the last episode in season 4, knowing that it would be at the end of season 5. But it's a huge achievement of a show. I still have it on DVD. We'll still watch it.
-1.
Marvel did a flashback month that was issue -1
because of course they did.
Yeah.
Someone's done an infinite one, right? Probably for a tie-in to something like with like an infinity sign. Let's see.
Just I'm sure they have. Somebody has.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Rob Liefeld kind of, like Prime Infinity issue or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of Prime, that is something that I've been watching. Have you guys checked out the Transformers War on Cybertron on Netflix?
I have not. Is that
Are you an old school Transformers fan?
I mean, sure, the original cartoon was, I mean,
It's this is like original Transformers on Cybertron during the war on Cybertron. Apparently, it's a 3-part series, and this is like 6 episodes, and it's about the war on Cybertron, and then the next one is going to be on Earth. But it's dark. It's kind of like the Beast Wars stuff, to where it's a little bit more adult, a little bit more dark. All the same voice actors. Huh?
Did you see that Bumblebee movie?
The first 20 minutes of that movie are amazing.
I really liked that movie. I thought it was really good. It felt like an 80s movie to me. Like, it felt like a classic sort of 80s. I mean, it's set in that time period too, but I thought it was really fun. I enjoyed the hell out of that movie.
I haven't watched all of it. The first 20 minutes were fantastic.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So is the Transformers that's an animated?
Yep, it's animated. It's Japanese animated. It's out of a Japanese studio. It's on Netflix. Netflix is called Transformers: War on Cybertron. I've enjoyed it. It's 6 episodes for the first season, and it's going to have 3 seasons that tell the story.
My son has gotten into anime. Like he's going through all the Naruto.
Oh, nice.
He's gone through 7 Deadly Sins and all this stuff. I don't even know what it is. Half of it.
You could watch this with him. I mean, it's very Japanese influence. I mean, Transformers is Japanese, so
kind of sort of robot tentacles.
No tentacles in this one, Tom.
All right.
Do you watch the Toys That Made Us?
Transformers is basically a trucker movie.
It is. It's
I
mean, their hero is a truck.
I mean, I should do the sort of Joseph Campbell version of here's how you tell a trucker story. Here's the truck's journey. Here's the
trucker's journey.
We're going to start ending our episode. It's a new ending to our episodes. It's going to be around comics.
Yeah.
Roll out.
It's just going to be
roll out. I think it's $1 million idea. I think if you did the trucker's journey.
The trucker's journey. Yeah, you got to go up the hill.
There's going to be lounge or lot lizards.
Yeah, all great stories follow the trucker's journey model.
8-point circle. We'll figure this out for sure.
All right, I have to go, guys.
All right, you gotta get the kiddies off to school.
Yeah, I gotta get the truck revved up.
Yeah,
making a cross country run tomorrow.
Finish scanning documents.
Got my documents scanned perfectly.
Excellent.
Yeah, they kept getting jammed, but it seems to have worked. So my kids will be able to go to school.
All right.
Yeah, it's great. It's wonderful. I'll talk to you guys next week.
Yes, we'll talk Tiananmen 1989.
Yeah, you guys just keep going. Figure out this trucker's journey thing for me.
All right.
Outline it.
Week, bud.
Outline it.
The trucker's journey. It always comes.
Mm-hmm. No, I was asking. Have you watched the Toys That Made Us? Have you seen that series?
I've watched a couple episodes. I haven't gone back.
The Transformers one is really good. The Star Wars one is really good, and the G.I. Joe one is really good.
I watched the He-Man documentary.
That's great. Yeah,
that made me sad though.
Yeah. Talk about screwed up industries, but was there any Don Glut stuff in there?
I don't remember. Yeah, there was. Yeah.
Okay, there should have been, because in the Toys That Made Us, whenever they were going over all the Masters of the Universe stuff, didn't mention Don once, and I'm just he named half those characters and whatnot. So
yeah, I'd have to go back and remember, because I think I watched the episode of the Toys That Made Us He-Man episode, but I think I also watched the separate documentary, so I might get them confused if I talked about them right now.
Yeah, it's the Toys That Made Us one. They never mentioned Don at all, but which I thought was weird. But the Transformers one is pretty fascinating because I mean, just that time in toys, they were basically just repurposing these Japanese toys into the American market. It's a pretty fascinating story about how all that came and became this huge thing. And that, along with GI Joe, it was with Marvel Comics getting involved, kind of brings it to that whole comic culture thing, because it was the toys and the TV show and the comics. It was all worked together.
I can't have more of my childhood destroyed, Chris. It's heartbreaking.
It's not heartbreaking. Just go watch it. It's nostalgic. It's great. The GI Joe one, they actually have Larry Hama in there quite a bit, and they've got Shooter talks about the GI Joe Marvel Comics deal that they did. So, and I think that all probably started before Transformers, and they probably used that as a template whenever they started doing the Transformers comics.
It's interesting, like, when going back and you realize, oh, these guys were it was just a big marketing thing. Like, they were just trying to create, this multi-tiered marketing plan to get kids.
They're trying to sell toys, man.
Yeah, I get it. It's just
they're selling toys.
Kid, like, I mean, that stuff was, those were characters that you fell in love with. You know what I mean? Like, those were stories. Those weren't just, and they did a great job of making you connect with those stories. But it's like the He-Man one is such a bizarre one because it's just so odd why that hit, like, and
it's all bizarre.
Yeah,
it's all fucking weird. If we're going to talk He-Man, now is when we have to have Seeley on and his brother on.
Yeah, right. I still if I had the time, like if I was a kind of 20-something with nothing to do or a lot of free time on my hands, I would absolutely. I talked to Seeley about this. Of like, I want to make a documentary of the culture of people that collect and trade and buy and sell He-Man figures.
Yeah,
it's fascinating and a little spooky and weird. And I'm like, there's a documentary there that would just be, I think, really interesting to delve into that bizarre world of that.
Wonder Man He-Man. Or is it what Wonder Bread He-Man?
Yeah, the Wonder Bread He-Man is the super rare.
I think my sister bought me this.
There you go.
Oh, here, I'll grab. Hold on a second.
Pull that mic closer to you anyway. You've been a little low.
Am I? Okay. Did he? You can look at my sister bought me this,
I think 2 Christmases ago or a Christmas ago when they came out with like
and like a good nerd, it's still in its original packaging.
Yeah. Still in there. I didn't take them out. I couldn't quite do it, but this is like a remake of the originals. It's an interesting sort of thing of like they took the original molds and stuff and remade them. But yeah, I was like, oh, cool. They have the actual original ones, but it looks different. Like, it doesn't quite still look the same to me as the original ones. I remember them differently. I don't know.
Yeah. It's crazy. But the Toys That Made Us episode on that is hilarious. Of just, if they were flying by the seat of their pants. It's like, for like colors and the big fucking cat.
They went in on a sales pitch and they're like, we have a comic book, or it started as an idea for. Did it even start as toys? Didn't it start as something else? And then it was like, well, we'll make the toys to sell the comic book.
Yeah.
Something, it was like something bizarre like that, where they weren't even trying to sell the toys. The toys were like a spinoff, and then the toys became this gigantic thing. Yeah. It's a bizarre story for sure. It's worth watching.
The 80s to grow up in that time between the comics and the toys and the animated series. I mean, it really was it was something else.
Oh, I mean, then like the birth of video games and you know.
Well, you had latchkey kids to begin with. I mean, we were latchkey kids, and you know, it was a generation of latchkey kids.
All my friends were latchkey kids.
Yeah,
all mothers worked. My mom
worked, but she was a bus driver, so I rode on the bus, and so my mom was the bus driver. So,
but yeah, no, and I mean, you think about it now, like look at pop culture today, and the billions and billions of dollars. It all, you know, it all goes back to those days, and you know, everything is still being used. I mean, look at your T-shirt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's like we haven't. I mean, I'm sure there are things I don't know about that culturally are huge, but it's like it just seems like there was that sort of explosion of content for pop culture when none existed before that, and it still is hung on. It's still being, you know, like that generation of kids is still, you know, driving that stuff. It's everywhere now. Like, you know, the comics and movies, and it never is going away. Like they just keep regurgitating it or reusing it. You know, everything keeps getting, you know, I just bought underwear with Back to the Future on it. You know, like.
Of course you did.
Yeah, but it wasn't even like a weird, like it wasn't like I had to search them out. It was an option on an underwear. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't like I went to a geek company and bought.
They made it easy for you.
Yeah, it's like this is a mainstream thing that we're gonna have Back to the Future underwear. You know, like it's just, and next to that we're gonna have plaid underwear, and next to that we're gonna have zombie underwear. You know what I mean? Like
I guess the biggest difference between, you know, an entertainment from then and now is that things were much more on a schedule. I mean, you had your Saturday morning cartoons, you had your afternoon cartoons after you got home from school. You know, it's if you missed the odd TV show that was, you know, geeky at all, which was probably what, you know, like Knight Rider, you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, if you missed it, you missed it. And as far as comics go, I mean, whenever we started, it's, you know, you had comics that you collected, and if you were lucky, you had a comic shop that you could go to. Otherwise, you were running around to drugstores trying to grab stuff off spinner racks. So it was a different, certainly a different way to, you know, collect and get your entertainment.
My daughter asked me, we were talking about something the other day, and she's like, what do you think is going to be like classic rock for me when I grow up, when I get older? You know, because we were talking about like classic rock, and she's like, what's going to be classic rock for me? And I'm like, Post Malone. Like, you know, like that's going to be your classic rock. Like that's going to be your, you know, like your classics. Your oldie station is going to be someday is going to be Post Malone, and you know, Lizzo is going to be on the oldie station.
Yeah, you know, it's something that struck me probably 2 or 3 years ago. So when we were high school age, you know, it's late 80s.
Still sounding really, really old right now, just so you're aware.
Oh, I know. But I always would look at people my age that would wear like, you know, like Doors t-shirts and like Hendrix. And I'm just like, you know, that was like 25 years ago or whatever. And now I see like high school and college kids wearing like Kurt Cobain, and you know, I saw someone went to the record store near where I work, and there was this gal who had to be probably 16 years old wearing a Nirvana like Bleach shirt. And I'm just like, she wasn't even alive whenever he died. And that is fucking weird to me.
Rolling Stones, you know, like,
yeah. You know, I'm just like, oh, but now, you know, yeah. So it's I don't know what, it's gonna be like Lizzo. And you know, that'll be that'll be classic rock at some point, right? It's
Yeah, I just thought it was an interesting question from my daughter, like her thinking about that, just like, because I certainly didn't think about that,
Pearl Jam.
Well, Pearl Jam's classic rock to me now. I mean, that's
They're probably
they are. I if you turn on a classic rock station, it's Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Guns N' Roses. That's classic rock now. I don't know what the fuck you call the Rolling Stones and Led Zeppelin and
oldies.
Yeah, oldies. That's the oldies section. So I was with my son the other day, and I listened to there's a station on Sirius XM called Garage Band or Garage Days or whatever.
Mhm.
It's garage bands, a lot of garage, but it's oldies, it's classic, it's all sorts of weird stuff, and it's hosted by like Little Steven Van Zandt.
Oh yeah. Will Stevens Garage.
Yeah, so he was also
he's been doing that show for
forever,
over probably 20 years.
But like it'll go back and forth between like classic rock and
blues.
Blues, 60s sort of pop stuff, and a song came on. It was I think it was like Yummy Yummy Yummy, I Got Love in My Tummy. And my son's like, what is this? I'm like, I don't know. This was a huge hit. Could you imagine like this was a huge hit at one time?
Well, dude, last year the Baby Shark thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the same thing.
The conversation went. Then the conversation went because then the song went to a Beach Boys song, and it was like, it wasn't. It was just like a I don't know. I don't remember what song it was, but just one of their sort of like pop songs.
Johnny B or something like that. Yeah.
And my son's like, I asked him, I'm like, do you know who the Beach Boys are? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I think I've heard of them, but don't all their songs kind of sound the same? I'm like, yeah, they kind of do. And I was like, honestly, Jack, I think the Beach Boys were popular at that time because they were white. I think there was way better music going on than the Beach Boys at that time, but they were very clean cut and they were white. And I think that was why they were popular.
California sound. Brian Wilson is a genius. And
people say that, but what is the proof of that exactly?
Good Vibrations.
What?
Good Vibrations.
That's one song.
God only knows.
I don't think Good Vibrations is that great a song.
It is.
I don't think it is. I think people overrate them because they were white and there wasn't anything else going on at the time. And they got played on the radio. How many blues artists were?
Well, I'm not saying there weren't other great things going on, but no, I'm not going to diminish the greatness of a record like Pet Sounds, which is I
can't even make it through that
monumental achievement.
Nah, it's overrated. It's not that good. I think you're wrong. I think everybody is wrong. It's not that good.
It's fine. I will disagree with you. Pet Sounds is a monumental achievement in recording history.
Yeah.
No, Mike Love. No, I'm not a big Mike Love fan. So, but that's for a lot of other reasons. But you feel that way about the Beatles?
No,
you've changed your tune.
My issue with the Beatles is I like the Beatles a lot. Mm-hmm. I'm a big Paul McCartney fan, and I like the Beatles a lot. I think that in some ways it was the same sort of thing where they were 4 white boys.
Yeah, their
popularity, a lot of it was based on that, and they were getting a lot of airplay because they were white. And
I have some bad news for you. The tattoo that you have on your hand.
Oh, I
say the exact same thing about that guy.
No question at all. I don't disagree. The difference is that their biggest achievements were done in a studio where his was on a stage. They couldn't reproduce what they did in a studio with 12 engineers and how many producers.
So
and
that's an interesting point.
Where he could walk out on a stage fat in a jumpsuit, sweating all over the place, and still perform at the highest level.
The Beatles, to the very end, could have gone out onto any stage and gotten an amazing reception and made great music. I think that the reason that they and Brian Wilson decided to stop touring is that the music was being, I think, lost in the craziness of the crowds and the screaming girls and that kind of stuff. And they wanted to make serious music, and they didn't feel like they could do that and tour. And they were also, let's face it, they were lucky enough where they didn't have to make the money touring because of the amount of records they were selling.
But why could every other band in the world in the history continue to tour and make serious music?
I mean, they were still kind of at the forefront. They were still kind of at the beginnings of what was going on. They wanted to. I'm not like. Yeah. I think Paul McCartney is one of the most brilliant songwriters ever. Like the guy amazes me of his ability to, like, he seems like the kind of person that at the drop of a hat could write a hit song. Oh, yeah.
Like a beautiful hit song, just like
he did that. He did that under a pseudonym because he wanted to prove to himself if he could write a hit song that was a hit without anyone knowing it was him. And so he wrote a song under a pseudonym, had someone record it, and it became a huge hit.
Yeah, for sure. I think no question. He continues to amaze me every time I listen to him perform, and like I said, his ability to write like poignant and beautiful songs that are also incredibly catchy is amazing. It's unbelievable. Like, I don't know that there's ever been anyone quite like Paul McCartney. Lennon, I don't know. I'm not that big a fan of Lennon as much as McCartney personally.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Lennon was darker.
I think there was the sort of cult of personality of John Lennon.
Yeah, I mean, there was a darkness with him. That's yeah.
I suppose. No, I don't take anything away from the Beatles. I mean, I think that all those artists at that time, a lot of their popularity had to do with the color of their skin. Not that was their fault.
Yeah,
it was what it was. But I think the difference between the Beatles and Elvis is a difference between like songwriting and performance. The Beatles could not perform like Elvis did. He was able to capture something on stage that they couldn't do. But he wasn't a songwriter. You know what I mean? He didn't write songs. He didn't.
No, he was a performer. He was a performer.
So different kind of things.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Like, there's a interesting documentary that just came out on Netflix on Sinatra, and it's based on, like, I want to say in the 90s, early 90s or 80s, when he sort of retired for the first time, and he was probably 60 something years old, maybe little less than that. He did a show. He did like a final show, and he picked 11 songs that he was going to perform that night at like the Hollywood Bowl with all of his friends and celebrities and everyone there. And like nobody got to see the set list before, like the night before. And it was sort of 11 songs that he picked to sort of say, this tells the story of Frank Sinatra. And so the documentary kind of takes those 11 songs, and one by one, it sort of tells his history.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, it's really well done. It's really interesting. And like I've always been a Sinatra fan, but like by the time I got to know Frank Sinatra, he was already the chairman of the board. He was in his 50s. He was already an older. But you watch the documentary and you see like footage of him as a young crooner, and it's like, oh yeah, you forget like all the teeny boppers were
like super thin, tiny Sinatra. Yeah.
And he had those blue eyes, and just like, women were going insane for him. And it's really interesting. Like, oh yeah, I kind of didn't, not that I didn't do that, but I just don't think of him that way.
Yeah. And then his acting career, he's actually a pretty damn good actor. It's like The Man with the Golden Arm.
Won an Academy Award, didn't he?
Yeah, I believe so.
Here to Eternity.
Yeah, I saw that.
It's a 2-part documentary. It's like 2 episodes, but it was pretty good.
That's cool. I will check that one out. Amongst the other things, I'm still trying to finish Umbrella Academy. I'm still trying to finish Doom Patrol. Been watching some Transformers, audiobooks. I'm listening to some Christopher Moore audiobooks. So
Christopher Moore audiobooks?
Yeah, I've been listening to Fool. Did you read Fool?
I haven't.
You would
Huh? I haven't read any of his books.
Oh, really? It's
I haven't gotten into any of his books yet.
You would like him. Yeah, it's you should read Dirty Job, if nothing else.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So, Dirty Job. You would like. Fool he did a trilogy of books that were basically his riff on Shakespeare. Fool is his take on King Lear. It's the fool in King Lear's court, and so it's kind of his kind of goofy, weird retelling of King Lear. And then he does one that's on the Merchant of Venice, and then another one which is on I want to say Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, but that is not Shakespeare. Midsummer Night Dream. So he does a trilogy of books that are kind of retellings of that, kind of through the eyes of the fool.
Julius Caesar isn't Julius Caesar?
That is a Shakespeare play, but not one of these.
Oh, I thought you said that wasn't. I'm like,
no, it's not. No, it's a King Lear, Merchant of Venice, and Midsummer Night's Dream.
Okay.
So yeah, good stuff. Funny. You get used to the term fuck stockings a lot, and Jeff the Monkey. So is a very popular character in the book.
I've been reading an interesting it's like an anthology book called Punktown.
It's called what?
Punktown. And it's sort of like it's set in a very like Philip K. Dick future, sort of, dystopian future kind of thing. It's hit or miss because it's an anthology, but the hits are really good.
Okay.
And the misses are okay. They're not horrible, but yeah, it's really interesting. It's almost like kind of horror sci-fi to some degree. You can get it on Amazon. I think if you're a Prime member, I think the first anthology is free.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good. The first story especially is like the guy who created the world or whatever that it exists in, and the first story especially is really good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's an interesting anthology of books or of stories set in this. They're all set in loosely. There's no necessarily connection.
And what's it called?
It's called Punktown.
Punktown.
Yeah.
I'm going to write this down. I'm going to see if they have an audiobook for it, because I have to go to Janesville twice this week.
There you go. I started reading Lovecraft Country.
I was going to say, I was actually just thinking about that because I'm considering starting up a HBO membership again, just for this show. It's a very
it's a very well done book so far from what I've read.
Mhm.
It's a great idea. And it's very well executed in the sense that like the first thought I had reading it is like, oh, this, this is just it's very much a classic sci-fi book or a classic horror book. It just happens to be a black guy that's experiencing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like but it's from his, so it's from his perspective. So the world's very different, but it very much feels like this is a Stephen King book, or this is a Stephen King character, or this is a Philip K. Dick character, or this, you know what I mean? Like it's very, it very much fits into the tropes of like classic sci-fi and horror stuff. But then it's like, but this guy's black, so everything he experiences is different at that time period.
Sure.
In America.
Yeah.
So
isn't it cool how Jordan Peele has kind of transformed from, part of one of, I think, the best sketch comedy teams ever.
No,
and
it sucks because god damn it, he's funny as shit. And as much as I enjoy his horror stuff,
you want more Key and Peele?
God, I loved that show so much.
It's so good. So good.
So funny.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, and I say that seriously, one of the greatest sketch comedy teams ever.
oh, for sure. It's phenomenal. I mean, it was the next like Chappelle show. It was the next like poignant, hilarious, and it just kept getting. But you can see, like, if you go back and look at it now, like, oh, he definitely loves horror, because there's some like horror elements to some of the sketches.
The what was it? Was not Family Value. The one with the Urkel.
Oh, yeah, I can't think of the name of the show, but I know.
Yeah, was Family something, but the skit I'm talking about, where Urkel actually has like superpowers and has basically threatened the lives of anyone involved in that show. That's
what I mean. Like, there's
dark. It was so dark.
There's some really dark, scary moments in a very hilarious sketch comedy show. So it's like, oh yeah, he's gonna do horror stuff. Okay, well that makes sense. But God, that show was so funny. I mean, it was so hilarious.
Yeah, the horror stuff has been so good, though.
I didn't care for Twilight Zone. I was really looking forward to the Twilight Zone series, and it
wasn't enough to keep me coming back for it. I
was hoping for a lot more out of it, and it just was like, it was okay.
Yeah.
Get Out is good. I still don't quite see the level of hype that movie got.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. I enjoyed it. I think probably if you were black, it probably would have resonated a little bit more. So
yeah, I suppose so. I can't speak to that. And
then what was the last? Was Us? Was that which I have not seen yet?
Us, yeah, it was good. Yeah. That was entertaining. Once again, though, I thought like a certain level of hype that I'm like, I don't know if it was that like Academy Award, level of movie, but it was good. It was very good. Yeah. So, but the book is really good. It's very well done.
Yeah.
And, the only thing about it that has been, it's like, and it's probably just me sort of
being you,
wishing the world wasn't this way, but it's like there isn't a white person so far in the book that isn't a horrible racist.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, maybe that just, I don't want the world to be that way. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of hope that that's not true. I know it's not true, but
it's not true, but it's more true than we would hope that it is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's just like but it's a really good book. It's very well done in the sense of he's absolute. And I don't know the writer's name. I should have looked it up. I wasn't planning on talking about it necessarily, but in the way that he sort of has captured the feel of like, you know, a John Carpenter book or just all that sort of classic horror sci-fi kind of stuff. Any kind of, you know, it has that feel. The stuff that I loved so much growing up. And it's like, ooh, it's right there. But then the twist of it is like, yeah.
1950s and a black man.
And and it starts in the South. And it's like, you know, and it's the really interesting is like he's driving part of the sort of, you know, route that he's taking. I literally just drove
going down to Texas.
I mean, because in the beginning of the book he's coming to Chicago, and it's like, yeah, no, it's still not that far off from.
Yep, you know, pretty much hasn't changed. That's why I moved away from there.
Yeah, but it's really good. It's very, very good.
Cool.
Listen to the audiobook. I'm actually reading the Kindle edition, but
Marta's got me on one called the Lies of Loch Lamora right now.
I think somebody else was reading that I know. I don't know somebody. I don't know what.
Yeah, so that's the one I'm supposed to start tomorrow. So that's make that wife happy.
I'm listening to Broadcast Hysteria. It's a book, audio book I got a while back. It's about the RKO, the Mercury Theater Mars Attacks broadcast.
Oh yeah,
by Orson Welles.
Sure.
And sort of the how it took on like such a mythic history, even though like really not that many people heard it, but it's like one of those things where like it seems like over the years it became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and now it's just part of
But the guy, the author of the book, he got access to all there was like thousands of letters written to the radio station. So he went through those and, you know, try and like piece together what the real reaction from people at the time was. So it's kind of interesting, but it's also, you know, like the idea of like
oral history of War of the Worlds.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, it's that to some degree, but it's also like an examination of like misinformation and fake news and why people maybe did react so bad. Like it puts it in context too of like the really interesting thing is, you know, at the time, you know, because not long before that, news stations were very like they would not. For a time, like a news station would not run a recording. They wouldn't run a recording of a story. If they didn't have someone live at the story, they felt that it was disingenuous to the public to run a recording of a story. That's how like
they had standards.
That were their standards. And then eventually it became this thing where like they would do recordings, but they would make sure people knew this is a recording of event that happened previously. And the story that sort of changed that was the Hindenburg, because it was a huge story, but it had happened at a time, and only one guy happened to be there. It was WLS radio in Chicago.
Right.
And he had the recording, and like nobody actually heard him.
That was the Humanity guy.
That was, and so that kind of changed it, where they're like, well, this is such a big story, we have to play it, because he was there. But then so they started to do recreations of news stories, and they started using voice actors that could do impressions. And so they would have a guy that would do Teddy Roosevelt, and they would, you know, or Franklin Delano Roosevelt. They would have someone that did Hitler, or they would have, like whatever the story was, they would have these really good, and it was like top talent, and there were like people that couldn't tell the difference, and so a lot of people thought that these were the actual people, but it was called the March of Times, and it was CBS radio. And you've probably seen a like in a movie or something where a period piece. It was like the March of Times presents. But that's kind of where Orson Welles kind of got his start. A little bit, there's other things, doing plays and stuff, but he started doing radio for them and voices, and then he did The Shadow, and then the Mercury Theater thing. He did that, but so it puts it in context of like, people trusted what they were hearing on the radio. They thought it was, because nobody had really done something like this where it crossed the boundary of reality.
Breaking down that wall. It's a dramatization of something that people trusted and relied on. And
nobody ever done a fake news radio show on the radio. Like, they had done fake shows. They would do a play, or they would do The Shadow, or they would do something that was...
But they didn't do a fake news broadcast.
Exactly. And so when people heard it, they had never heard anything.
Shit, yeah.
So that's why people believe...
Even something as outrageous as Martians attacking.
Well, here's the other interesting thing is, like, it was only like a couple of months before that had happened, there was this huge storm on the East Coast in, like, I don't know if it was Maryland or where it was at, and it caught everybody by surprise. Like, nobody knew that it would happen. So it was very, a lot of damage, and it was a huge, but it was like on the radio, it was this huge event after the fact, and it freaked a lot of people out. So people were really like, it was fresh in their minds that this cataclysmic event had just happened.
Sure.
On the coast. And then you had, World War II was right around the corner, and you had that whole thing. So people were just like,
they're on fucking edge.
So fucking Orson Welles was an asshole. Like, he knew what he was.
Yeah.
But he was so smart. Like, he knew how to game. Like, he fucked with the system. Like, he was smarter than the system, and he fucked with it. One of the things that I thought was really interesting is, so he was running back and forth. He was doing these plays, he's doing these like Broadway plays, and he was using his own money to fund them a lot of the times. Mm-hmm. So doing a bunch of different voice acting stuff at different radio stations across New York. And he was making really good money doing it, but he had to get from like one radio station to the next. And so what he ended up doing was hiring an ambulance, because there was no law that said an ambulance had to only be used for sick people. So he hired an ambulance, and they turned on the sirens, and he could
turn on the rollers. I got to go. That's brilliant. Yeah. Right? Crazy.
Yeah. Awesome. It's a really interesting book about that sort of event.
Nice. All right, sir. I got to get up and run tomorrow.
All right. Well, you have fun with that.
I'm working on taking off my COVID weight.
Your COVID 20?
My COVID 20 is down to about a COVID 5 now. So,
very nice.
Yeah. The intermittent fasting is working.
Dude, I tell you, it didn't do anything for me as far as weight, but I felt great when I was doing it. And I kind of do it now anyway, but I've been losing weight. I started a new lifting program, so I've actually dropped about 5 pounds in the last month or so, and
doing kettlebells now.
Doing kettlebell stuff, and but I've been eating like garbage. I mean,
I've been drinking a lot.
I don't know. I work out so much that I don't think I can eat enough calories anyway. So
yeah. I'm drinking more vodka now instead of the brown liquor. I'm hoping that helps.
It can't hurt. I'll tell you, I like those seltzers. I like the hard seltzers. I've become a seltzer drinker anyway. I drink seltzer like every day.
Yeah. Nah, I drink the bubbly water. That's fine. That's but it's got to be something a little stiffer than that, Sal.
All right, my friend. Well, you have a good week.
Yeah, you too. We'll come back. We'll talk about Tiananmen, 1989. I'll actually go to the comic shop and see what's new this week, and yeah, so we'll see. It's apparently I got a lot of audiobooks to listen to as well.
You got some listening to do.
Yep, you listen here. I'd maybe buy some books for my wife, Marta. During lockdown and everything, I think she's up to about 70 books this year that she's read. So, but I think like 40 of them are like the cheap dime store romance novels. She's been reading a lot of romance novels this year. It's hilarious. She listens to a shout out to her favorite podcast, Heaving Bosoms.
Heaving Bosoms.
Heaving Bosoms.
Romance novel.
It is a romance novel podcast.
Awesome.
And she adores it. I hear her listen to it every day in her office. I'm just like, honey, can I come in? Do you need a moment?
I've been listening to podcast, a lot more podcasts. No comic book podcasts, but other podcasts.
I've been listening to the best podcast in baseball. It's usually Cardinals focused, but they will. It's the Cardinal beat writer who's not a Cardinal fan, by the way, and it's the Post Dispatches baseball podcast. So they kind of touch on all of baseball. Oh, by the way, shout out to your White Sox today.
Oh, yeah.
They beat so the Cardinals won both games yesterday, but the White Sox went back to back to back to back home runs today against the Cardinals.
Wow. That'll do it.
Yeah,
the ball. I mean,
4 in a row, and none of them were. I mean, they were all no doubters. All of them were just crushed.
Is that a record of some kind?
It's got. I think it probably ties a record if it. I can. Yeah, probably ties a record. There may be 5 out there. I'm not for sure, but yeah, it was. They just got in the meat of that lineup, and all those guys can hit. It was Abreu and Jimenez and a couple other guys.
They can hit, but they're also streaky, which is the problem.
Yeah.
When they're not hitting, they're all not hitting.
Yeah. I'm just glad that the Cardinals are finally playing again.
Yeah, a bunch of fucking, stay out of the casinos, boys. Stay away from the hookers or something. I don't know what those guys are doing.
Yeah. But yeah, we're gonna have college football.
Oh fuck! At some point, we got to talk the Long Gone Summer. Did you watch that? The 30 for 30 on McGuire and Sosa?
No, I bet it's good though. I didn't need to watch it. I lived it, Sal.
It's interesting. I have some comments for sure.
Oh, I bet. Oh yeah, they were both juiced out of their minds. Out of their minds, meaning more Sammy than McGuire, but they were both juicing hard.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting how little that is brought up. I mean, it is brought up eventually.
That it's not brought up that they were both roided out of their minds.
It's brought up eventually.
Okay,
not a major part of that documentary. Which is
it's an incomplete documentary then.
and when it's brought up with Barry Bonds and yeah, it's strange. It's odd how it's done.
I think because Bonds didn't blow up until after 1998, and I think he was really jealous of the attention that McGuire and Sosa got. Was that kind of the perspective?
No.
Okay.
No, that's what it's very. You got to watch it. You have to watch it, and
okay,
and we'll talk about it because it's very odd. Like I said, it's good, but it's odd that the way they finally get to the steroid talk is strange, and I mean, I can only listen to Mark McGuire say, "I didn't take steroids for muscle. I only took it to heal." And me going, well, what about HGH? What did you take that for, Mark? Because you took that. What did you take HGH for?
Well, he said he didn't take steroids for muscle.
Yeah, I don't know what he's. So it's like
that was not an incorrect statement.
Yeah, I suppose so.
He says I took the androstenedione and the HGH for muscle. The steroids were for recovery.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, a little odd, but it was strange, and yeah, those guys still are not particularly repentant about.
No, McGuire's still working in baseball.
Yeah, he's a coach, right?
I think he's the hitting coach for.
I don't have an issue. It's like, well, I don't have an issue with that. Like, to me, it's like, hey, it was what it was.
Yeah,
everyone
was juiced out of their minds.
Yeah, those guys just, it's like it was what it was. So what?
Yeah,
I still think it's weird. I mean, unfortunately, you just can't go back in time and sort of like go, well, these guys would have done this if they hadn't been on steroids, or these guys would have done this if they were on steroids. It's just,
yeah, there's always going to be a cloud over. I mean, he hit 49 home runs as a rookie. So I think that the talk about, recovery and healing, he was an incredibly gifted natural power hitter without steroids. But later in your career, I mean, I'm 47 years old. You're like 60 now. I mean, you know what recovery is like.
I am 49. I am not. I don't disagree. But the thing is, like, yes, that's true. It didn't necessarily. Maybe taking steroids didn't make you hit home runs.
No, it made it where you could do it every day
and play. Yeah, it lets you play at a peak performance every single day when you wouldn't have.
Yeah. I always said it wasn't the power hitters or the power pitchers that where most of the steroid abuse was going on.
Well, I don't know if I agree with that.
Look at a middle reliever. What's the difference between a middle reliever that can pitch 4 days a week and a middle reliever that can only pitch 3 days a week? A spot on a major league roster
across the board, but you saw so many guys blow up and hit home run.
Yeah, it's Sheffield. But I think everyone was using. And you look at those middle relievers, if the difference between being on a major league roster or being down in triple or double A was being on the juice, those guys were juicing.
Oh, I'm sure they were. I'm not saying that. I don't think it's a matter of that, but I don't know if you can say the most abuse was from middle relief pitchers in baseball.
No, but I think that's what people probably failed to talk about is if there was one place that steroids could make a make or break between being on a roster or not, it was with a middle reliever, just in their ability to bounce back and pitch on back-to-back days, that kind of shit.
Or an aging power hitter.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be able to play 168 games and hit 5 home runs.
72.
Yeah, I just, I was kind of, it's like, okay, I'm pretty familiar with what steroids can and cannot do, and what it's like what performance enhancing drugs.
I was on steroids. I told you about that, right?
Yeah.
About the fucking wasps that stung the shit out of me a few weeks ago, and I had that delayed allergic reaction.
Yeah.
And so they put me on steroids to get over these wasp stings, and man, swelling went down like almost immediately. I got up the next morning, and so I've been running with the dog, and normally I run like an 11.5 to 12-minute mile pace. I mean, I'm a slow runner, but I'll do, around a 12-minute mile. That morning, it's like 2 10-minute miles. So it knocked like 2 minutes off. And I come in and Marta's like, "How was your run?" I was like, "Steroids are awesome." I'm going to go run more.
Like I said, the HGH is a different kind of thing than anabolic steroids. A lot of time is just testosterone, so it's just testosterone food. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, the idea of like, well, it didn't make me hit home runs. Like, no, but how many home runs did you hit that maybe wouldn't have been home runs?
Yeah.
Like how many, and how many
how many days did you play that maybe you wouldn't have played and hit 3 home runs that day? You know, in July and August. You know, when you had this incredible fucking.
It was cool, man. I mean, I was a Cardinal fan living in St. Louis in 1998, and it was every day. Oh,
hell, I lived through it. I remember
Yeah.
it was amazing watching those guys all.
Oh.
I mean, just the race
back and forth every single day. Oh, did Sammy hit 1? Mark hit 2. Sammy hit 3. You know, it's, you know, Sosa had that month. I think he had June. He hit what, like 22 home runs in June.
Yeah, so
it was insane. It was insane. Yeah, the whole year. It was banana pants. It was fun. My God, it was fun.
And like I said, I mean, to me, it's like the Chris Rock joke of like, if you could go to work tomorrow and take a pill to make twice your salary, would you take it?
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. Okay. You know, like who's gonna? Yeah. So it's like that wasn't illegal, that wasn't outlawed. You know, at the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like none of that stuff was against. I mean, they didn't drug test.
Yeah, and that it was a failure on baseball's part.
Absolute failure on baseball. It is the black mark against Bud Selig, who did some great things for baseball while he was there. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about him, but that was on his watch, and they dropped the ball on it big time.
Like just fucking come out and just be like, you know, yeah, this is what I did. It helped me. I didn't, you know, like everybody was doing it, and I didn't think of it in the sense of like I was doing anything wrong. I was trying to be the best athlete I could possibly be. This helped me be a better athlete.
Yeah.
That you know, it's like, yeah, okay, I get it. Like I get it. There's no. I didn't do anything wrong. This didn't help me hit home runs.
Oh, the decade before that, it was cocaine.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
speed. I mean, speed the decade before that. You know, like So yeah, no question.
Yeah.
Like I said,
You got Doc Ellis, you know, dropping acid and throwing no hitters.
I think we need to have just a open drug league at some point. Just like
I understand. I know this theory of yours that you just want everything to be legal and see exactly how far we can push science to create like the ultimate monstrosity.
Why not? Let's make it fun. Come on. I want to see mutants out there. Just
it's like the one year that he sprouted the third arm, fantastic.
It really helped him. His ERA dropped 2 points. His whip
made him such a better outfielder with 2 gloves.
His whip was a full point lower with the third arm than without it.
You're ridiculous. All right, buddy, let's wrap this one up, and we'll talk more about mutant baseball players and truckers next week. So
good.
Yeah, good one. All right, we will be back next Sunday. Talk about everything in and around the world of comics. In the meantime,
in between time,
we'll be around comics.
Everywhere, around. You missed the everywhere. in and
around comics.
We missed 1 week, and he just.
I know. That's. Baseball.